we have probably one of the best summoning events we've seen in quite some time inside the game. So I'm going to be talking about the summoning event. I'm going to be talking about a couple of tips and tricks that you should know. And I'm going to be talking about the team that I'm using to farm the Fire Knight Epic Only Tournament, which is where you get one of these free summons from. What is this event? Well, this is going to be inside the Altar of Souls, the Summon Pool, which is this kind of cool little prism soulstone that we get to open. These are the champions that you can pull from, and it appears that Plarium basically just went ahead and said, you know what, let's go ahead and take basically every single amazing champion in the game and throw them into one summoning event with a few exceptions. So the exceptions to that would probably be somebody like maybe an Artak who doesn't see use everywhere, maybe even a Shaled, something like that. And of course, like a miscreated monster, I'd say those are probably kind of like at the bottom tier of this summoning pool. But then you also have Siphi and Narcissus and Marichka and Duchess and Trunda and Armans and Prince Kaimar and all these other fantastic champions. And if we go up here, you can actually see the rates as well. Right here. So essentially you can't pull a rare, which makes sense. 72% chance on an epic, and then a 28% chance for a legendary, which is actually not bad. And of course you're not getting 1-stars either, so even worst case scenario, you're still getting a 2-star epic soul for one of these particular epics. And basically all the epics in here are very serviceable, right? Like you have Ruella, you have Daithi, Madame Cerise, you have Godseeker Aniri, that's probably one of the best epics in the game, Geomancer, ditto, right? You have Stag Knight still, Allure, Magnar. All of these are fantastic champions. As you can see, I own like every single one of them too, which is pretty nice. But and then even from the legendaries, if you get lucky, you have like a Syl in here, which everybody's going to get. You have an Armans, which was a fusion, Nishak fusion, Lydia everybody gets. We have Eustrid, who is a fusion, like a free login in Artak. There's so many good champions in here, and we have a full 4 days to try and get some of this stuff done. I'm actually very tempted by there was one of the pack offers in the shop for like $7 or something like that. Let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, this one right here. So like 50 of the shards for $7. It's kind of tempting, honestly. That being said, how do you get these shards? So what you're going to do is you're going to go in here and you get a guaranteed pull, so you get 45 of the fragments from doing the Fire Knight's Castle, which is an epic only tournament. As you can see, I put up some decent points in there already. Couple of tips to talk about. First of all, don't actually summon until we're inside the clan versus clan window, because as you can see, maybe, it is actually a personal rewards clan versus clan. So if you want to get the extra points and if you want to try and make sure that you have the best chance of winning possible, you're going to want to go ahead and wait to pull. Same thing goes for any sort of champion upgrades, just hold off on those. And same thing goes for summoning events as well. Obviously, if you plan on summoning, if you have anything you're pulling, just go ahead and wait for the CVC to start. Even just booking champions and stuff, I'd say it's worth waiting the 11 hours. Let's go ahead and hop over to Fire Knight and let's talk about the team. The team that I am using is farming on stage 21, and this is the team right here. So you don't necessarily need a Seer, she could be replaced. You could run probably another Ruella instead of the Allure, and then the same thing vice versa. So if you don't have a Ruella, just run another Allure essentially. Farrakhan, fairly needed. I would say you could replace him with any other sort of an ally attacker, be it a legendary, an epic, or a rare. Stag Knight can be replaced quite easily, and probably even his job done better by somebody like a Deacon Armstrong. We also have Seer, so you don't really need a Seer, basically just anybody who's doing a lot of damage. Let's go ahead and do the run. Substitution, so in the Ruella spot, anybody who's doing turn meter control, especially if they have a decreased defense or a decreased speed or any of those sorts of good things, are going to be very, very useful. Stag Knight comes in as kind of the backup decreased speed, which is pretty nice, because he does have it on his A1 at a very decent land rate. Allure is the queen of turn meter control, and of course Seer does help us get through the waves pretty decently as well, so we are actually going to be able to get this done in about 3 minutes or so. I am farming stage 21 of Fire Knight for affinity reasons. This just works out the best for me. This team will work on basically any stage though, although it will be a little bit more RNG heavy once you start getting to some of the probably the magic stages, I suppose, because we are using a lot of spirit champions, right? So if they're weak hitting and whatnot, it's going to be a bit questionable. And then of course, considering that Allure is also magic, she's going to struggle against any sort of force champions. So considering that we're not using any force champions, I figured that Spirit was the best way to go. With that in mind, if you're lucky enough to have like a Neldor, or if you have like a Creodin, or anyone like that, you could essentially just start farming the Fire Knight hard, right? Because it doesn't matter if it's hard or normal, you just have to make sure that you are using epic only champions. So if you throw somebody in like a Farrakhan with a couple Creodans or something like that, they can easily blast their way through Fire Knight hard without too much issue. As you can see here though, we're clearing through the waves. We're clearing through it at about 1.5 minutes on wave 2 so far. This would be a lot faster if the Seer was actually set up with like proper buffs and everything like that, but I don't really have it speed tuned or anything. I don't really have a buffer inside this team, so she definitely struggles a little bit there, I would say. So now that the shield goes down, it does not go back up. Ruella and Stag Knight help to make sure of that with their decreased speed. Allure comes in and just basically keeps that turn meter at nothing. Ruella comes in with her 3 hitting a 1 with some extra Giant Slayer on there, as well as just some turn meter steal, so she helps keep things down as well. And then, of course, Seer comes in with the occasional Karma burn as well on that A3. So the Fire Knight can't really do a whole lot. We get the decreased defense up too, which is perfect, so we're going to do more damage with everybody else. If you have Phantom Touch is the blessing that you'd want to run on most of these champions, because it is going to do an extra hit, plus it does actually count as quite a bit of extra damage against the boss too over a prolonged run. So this is going to work out to around like 2,700 energy, roughly 21 to 2,700, depending on how lucky you get with the drops. So it definitely is going to be a bit of a grind, and you're probably going to want to leave your game running overnight or something like that. However, of course, I think the rewards are worth it, because getting a guaranteed 2-star soul or above for some of those champions is pretty fantastic. I'm honestly hoping that I might get somebody like maybe a Syl or something like that, although it'd be pretty sweet if I got like a 6-star soul out of this finally, but I very much doubt that's going to happen. The drop rates are not that good at all, but here are the rates once again if you're curious. So you do have a 5.5% chance of getting both the epic and the legendary 6-star, so a very, very low chance, because obviously you'd have to get the 28% chance on the legendary and then the 5.5% chance on the 6-star soul. But best of luck. Let me know down below if you guys have opened this up and if you got lucky with any of it. I might do an opening video on it if I purchase some or whatnot, but stay tuned for that. Thank you guys all so much for the support, and I'll see you next time.